Hi, everybody. I am Holly Celiano, and I have my co-host, Dr. Matthew Singer. Welcome, Matt.
Holly, thank you so much again. It's a pleasure to do this with you.
Yes. And today we're going to talk about how social media can affect our well-being and state of mind. And it's become quite an epidemic today. We didn't, and you're in my generation, we didn't have social media. There wasn't any of these Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, um, X, any of it. None of this stuff existed. Now I find this whole generation, all they're doing is posting, posting, look at me,
Mhm.
I'm here, I'm there, I'm with this one. And it's leading others to be a form of depression because if certain people are off traveling or with friends or at a party or at a social event and you're not, you feel left out. You feel something's wrong with you. You're not
Yes,
in that social status with them. It can lead to a lot of depression.
100%. So, one of the scary things nowadays is cyberbullying. I mean, when you talk about social media, when you and I were growing up in junior high and high school, if something happened that was embarrassing, it lasted for a half hour, an hour, maybe a day, and then it was over. Now, if it happens, it's posted all over and it can be sent throughout the world.
Mhm.
And there could be continuous repeats of it over and over and over again. And the cyberbullying is something which is so dangerous and so toxic, not only to the person being bullied, but to the people bullying, because it's bringing out the worst in them. It's bringing out the worst in who they are, as a soul, as a human, and it's really giving the opportunity to really move to an ugly, evil side of humanity, and that's becoming such, like you said, an epidemic
Mhm.
that even the suicide rates are up by 20% from social media, from when there was no social media. It's something which is absolutely horrible.
It is horrible. And, another thing that can be done with how the technology is, they can go and put your face on another body and say it's you and,
Mhm.
make up false
Mhm.
claims about you. And it's put out there and you, it's a really hard thing to dispel when, especially as a child, having this done to you. So
It's so true.
what do we do for the youth being raised in this generation of social media and all the technology that we have? How do we navigate?
So I know for myself, because my children are still in high school. I mean, for my wife and I, we decided that we just don't allow it. So it's about putting your foot down. I mean, other parents who complain about it and they say, "Oh, my child's always on social media." I don't say anything, but in my mind, I'm thinking to myself, well, you're the one who allows it. You're the one who buys the phone for them. You're the one who allows them to download it. So we allow our child to have a phone, but we don't allow them to download social media. So they're out of it. I mean, that's one thing you can do. And then the parent would say to me, "Oh, but then they won't be popular, or they won't be in the mix, or they'll get made fun of if they don't have social media." Well, now we're dealing with a whole different situation. It's about not caring about what someone else thinks. So there's so many lessons in so many ways, because on one hand, they don't want their child to get bullied, but on the other hand, they don't want their child to get left out. So they're
Right.
willing to allow them to be on all these social media platforms. So, for I'm the perfect example. I just I don't give a rip. I don't let my children download it because I think it's toxic, and I don't care if they're missing out on stuff. They're not missing out on that much. There's nothing pressing that a 16 or a 17-year-old needs to communicate. Unless they're starting their own business, or something. There's nothing pressing that they have to communicate. that they can't call on the phone to their friend or something.
So do your children, because you don't allow this, do they feel that they are left out? Are they upset? Do they put pressure on you and your wife to have them have these social media apps and be included? I mean, do they feel like they're an outcast among their friends?
So they don't feel like they're an outcast, but they say to us, periodically, can I download Instagram now? Can I download Facebook now? And we don't just say no, we give them reasons why. So I'll give them real life reasons of why the answer is no. So when it comes to education, not fear, I'm not trying to put fear in them. I'm trying to educate them, because you could be talking to your friend and all of a sudden something else could show up on your feed that you weren't expecting. And now you're drawn into a whole nother world. So it's first starts with education, really, really getting them to understand the dangers of what are out there. Now you and I know that there's some amazing parts of social media, how we can utilize it for information and for helping people to know health tips and how to navigate through fear, and all these different things, of how to prosper. But for a child who's not in that same mindset and then just wants to show their new glasses that they bought, or a new shirt, or make fun of somebody, there's I tell my children there's no place right now in your world for that. I'm just not going to put up with it.
I know when I was raising them, and my children are much older than yours, social media was just starting to come out. Facebook was just starting. We didn't have all the other social media apps that they have today. And I was really strict on not having that because I saw it as being quite a detriment and a danger to their well-being. But there was a peer pressure from
Mm-hmm.
all the other kids with all the other parents that allowed it. And my kids didn't want to be feeling left out or the odd one because I wasn't allowing it. And it was a long time before I allowed them to have that. So with that being said,
Yes.
most of the parents today allow it. So then you're up against, well, everybody else is doing it. And, there might be a handful of kids that don't have it then. What do you do with that?
Well, you and I know that phrase so well. Everyone else is doing it.
Mhm.
So so this is where I say to them, first thing is, I need you to have confidence within yourself. If everybody else is doing it, I'll give you a perfect example. So I was working with a patient who, this was last year. I remember it was around March, where they said, I'm so stressed out. My child just turned 11 and I just bought her a phone, and she downloaded all the apps, but I'm afraid to let her do it. But I don't want her to be left out. So I'm willing to let her do it. I'm just going to monitor it. So she thought she was going to monitor it from a distance. So she lets her daughter do it. And after about 3 months, I see her again. She says, I'm so stressed out. My daughter's getting cyberbullied like crazy. However, she still has not deleted any of the social media accounts. So, so I said to her, here you were afraid to let your daughter have the social media accounts because of cyberbullying. And now 3 months later, your daughter's depressed because she's being cyberbullied. So at what point are you going to step in and stop this?
Mhm.
So the mom goes, I know, but she's addicted to it. I said, well, you're feeding into the addiction.
Right.
So, when the thing that you and I know so well is, if we're going to sit back and let this happen, that means I'm afraid to say no.
And then you
And we've
become
talked
part
about
of the
this with our
problem.
viewers, right? Yes. Yes. They're the biggest part of the problem.
Yes.
So, yeah, is it hard for my wife and I to say, no, you can't do this? Sure. But at the end of the day, you and I can go online and every single day see something that happened because of social media that was negative. whether it's school shootings or whether it's bomb threats or whether it's, or I'll give you another example. There was, so I'm a part of a group, the Coalition for um, Drugs and Alcohol Abuse. So I was in a meeting and they were talking about there was a, I guess like a, on Instagram or Facebook, there was a dare, and there was people all over the country or probably all over the world where they were daring each other to go into their closet and make a noose and put it around their neck and see how long they could go without passing out. So sure enough, a couple people actually died from it. So when kids have a lot of time on their hand and they're scrolling and they find these groups and they think they belong, and then they do these things and then they die, then the parents wish that they never gave their child access to this. So, those are the things that are actually going on. People will say, they'll come up with ridiculous things that are going on a regular basis. So what do you make of that?
Yeah, I've heard of those stories and they're horrific because it becomes a game. And, kids don't have the awareness as an adult to make the right decisions for themselves. So they'll go along with the peer pressure. And whether peer pressure is
Correct.
good or bad, they're still going to go along because they don't want to be left out. Um, but ultimately, the bottom line of all of this that we're talking about, it goes back to the parents. It's up to the parents.
Mhm.
And if the parents allow it and they're still not happy with what's happening, but they're still allowing it, well, then the parent has the problem. That's something within the parent, and they're passing that on to their children. So it's really we need to
Yes,
be as an
absolutely.
as an adult, we need to be strong in our values and our morals to be able to instill that in our children.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
sadly,
On a detrimental, I'm sorry.
that's
Yeah,
no, sadly, adults are
um,
not strong in their values and morals.
absolutely. It's so true. And on the detrimental side, um, firsthand experience, I know I've interviewed people to work in my office in the past, and all I have to do is when I get the resume, I simply go on social media and I look them up, and I can easily make an opinion of who they are just by seeing their photos.
Mhm,
So the other detrimental part about social media is I've heard stories from parents who told me that their child was at a party and didn't know it, but was being filmed doing something sexual.
mhm,
And then when they were applying to college, the college would just nonchalantly Google these kids who were applying, and they actually saw something and they were accepted. Then the acceptance was taken back because of what they saw. I've heard of stories where people, um, once again, were hired at jobs, and then just like with my experience, they were searched on social media, and then that job offer was taken back. So there's a lot that goes on when someone is looking to get a job. You're representing that company. So if on your social media it's disgusting things, there's a lot of employers who are not going to hire someone if that's on their feed, because that's now a reputation of the company.
right,
So it starts to go even further. It can actually, detrimentally hurt somebody. I've known people who have gotten fired because they've done ridiculous things on the weekend, and it went through social media and their boss saw it and they fired them,
right.
you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's social media has become an epidemic. I mean,
Yeah.
even the cell phones have become an epidemic.
Hmm.
I can't stand when I go out to dinner and you see couples sitting across from each other and they're both on their phone. They're not talking. And it's like, why even go out to dinner if you're going to sit there and be on your cell phone?
It's so true. Could you imagine if we did this podcast on our cell phones and
Oh
we're
my
just
gosh.
looking at each other with it? So it's you're 100, you're 100% right. I see it so many times. I'll go out to dinner and you'll see that. I'll be on vacation with my family and the parents are both on cell phones and the kids are on cell phones and they're sitting at a table and they think that that's a family vacation. It's not a family vacation. I make my kids give up their cell phones when we go on vacation. I turn mine off. I said,
Mhm.
that's it. I'm done. I'm not going on my phone. Now, if it's at night and we're in the hotel room and they're showering and I have time to myself, sure, I'll go on and check emails, but I'm not going to do it when I'm with my family.
Right.
And
Yeah,
it's becoming an epidemic.
it absolutely is.
It's drawing people away from each other.
Yes. Well, people don't know how to communicate with each other because especially the youth today, their whole communication is texting. They
Hmm.
don't have, verbal conversations.
Yes.
And I think it's going to create people being very socially awkward
Oh, it
because they
already
don't
is.
know how to communicate with somebody else.
Absolutely. Now, during this time of awakening, now we know the energy is shifting so much. We also know that there's a negative energy and
Mhm.
there's a positive energy. So the people in social media are getting sucked into this negative energy and they're getting pulled so fast. And if they're not aware and they're not careful, they can end up going into a real big depression very quickly.
Yep.
And they
I,
can, I've seen a lot of anxiety, a lot of fears kick in from social media.
yes, I see that too.
Mhm.
A lot.
Yes. Now, I mean,
So
you and I, yeah, we talk about fear mongering. We talk about on the political side, how there's so many lies. The information that goes on in our world, in our realm
mhm,
of lies and deception of what they want people to believe
right.
is out of control.
Well, through social media, you can control the narrative whatever way you want it to be. You
Hmm.
can, have a pro or a con against anything and make it so believable. And there are people that are hired that do just that. So
Yes.
it can and sway the whole mindset of people. So social media, it's a wonderful thing, but it's also very detrimental.
Yes. Yes. And it's just like a gun. A gun is not dangerous until the person who's using it uses it for harm. Social media could be something that could be excellent. You could help a lot of people. We could change the world with it. Um, or it could be used detrimentally to harm and to create fear and create anxiety. So it's the person using it. It all has to come back to the intention. Are they doing it out of love or out of fear?
Right. Well, intention, as you and I have talked about, is everything. Whatever we're doing, whatever our intention is. Same with, we've talked about this. If you're making food and you're in a really bad mood and you have anger and hatred, well, that intention is being put into the food. If
Yes.
you're cooking and you're in a loving, nurturing space, and that's what you're putting into the food. So, intention in life is everything.
Yes, exactly right. So I have a chart in my office. It shows the frequency of foods. So, for example, a food that grows off a tree or grows out of the ground is going to have a high frequency, usually somewhere between 700 and 800 megahertz. A food that was, for example, let's say you took some kind of chicken and then it was fried and then it was connected with different sauces that are really bad for you and a lot of preservatives. They've measured that food and it doesn't even go above 100. So within our energy, let's say we want to maintain a specific energy balance of around 1,000, and now we eat fast food and preserved foods, and we eat a lot of toxins and sugary foods. Now you can be maintaining an energy of, let's say, below 400. So now if we're on social media and there's something negative or fearful, and that's at a very low vibration, you're going to be attracted to watch that. And then they'll say, why did I watch that? I don't know why I watched that. Now I can't get it out of my head. Well, because the other things you're doing in your life are matching that negative frequency.
Mhm.
That's how the law of attraction works.
Right. Yeah.
Hmm.
So I'm sure you see a lot of patients or children in your practice that have detrimental repercussions from social media.
Yes.
What do you say to them? How do you address that? Besides telling the parents, "We'll get them off," and the parents were like, "Well, I don't want them left out and feeling,
Hmm.
that they're not included." What
Yes.
what do you do? It's
So
almost
the
like you
first,
need to re-educate the
yes,
parents.
it all starts with the parents. And then with the child, I have to get them back to understanding that they are the love. I have to get them back to understanding that nothing has any meaning until you give it meaning. No circumstance means anything until you give it a meaning. The circumstances don't matter. What matters is your state of being. So when you're on social media and you're seeing someone bullying you, or you're watching something that people are making fun of you, you're giving that permission to make you feel horrible. Doesn't have to be like that. So I teach them that it doesn't matter what someone says. It only matters how you respond to it. The second thing I tell them is everything that you're seeing is a reflection of how you feel about yourself right now. And I say, you may not like to hear that, but that's the truth. So if you're watching something about someone who's making fun of you or putting you down, that means somewhere inside you, you had to already feel that. And they always say to me, you're right. That's exactly right. So then I get them to change their belief, to see them as as the perfect, amazing person that they've always been. Get them to drop that old thinking. And then we get them to change their point of view. And then what's interesting is once they start thinking like that, they really have no desire to be on social media anymore. A lot of them just drop their accounts. But that's what I do to get them to see the perfection that they are, and to let go of what doesn't serve them, to find the reflection of what they're seeing and why they're seeing it. It's
Right.
not real. The whole thing is an illusion. But we hired those people to bully us. And I say, well, let's find out why.
So do you think kids that well, I'm sure the kids that you see are open to this, but the majority of children, I don't know if they'd be open to what
Mhm.
you're trying to have them see within themselves.
Yeah. So some of the children come in so closed. They come in so guarded, so closed, and having no self-esteem. So the first thing I have to do is I have to very gently walk them back into their power. I have to get them to see their power. I have to get them to see that they are amazing. So once I can start to do that, then I could start to educate them that the thing that got you to the point where you felt so bad about yourself wasn't even your thought. It was the thoughts of everybody else. Because you could be on social media and you could listen to 50 other of your friends from school or other schools talk about how depressed they are, how sad they are, how much their life it sucks and is horrible. And now what's going to happen is they hear it enough, they're going to become that. So I have to strip them away from that. I have to get them to stop hearing that, because you and I know if you hear something long enough, the ego will say, well, maybe that's true, or maybe that's who I should be. So by getting them off that, I said, the second you hear something negative, I want you to switch off of it right away. Because remember, the law of attraction means now that train starts moving faster. More people get on that negative train. And now, next thing you know, you have 300 kids saying how horrible their life is and how horrible things are, and they wish they were dead. Now you have your child thinking that about themselves just because everybody else is. So they're being sucked in to that energy. So I have to suck them out of that energy.
Listening to this, it sounds like this would be a great venue to go to schools and start doing public speaking at schools on
Mhm.
on this for the students to
Absolutely.
to get away from this and to realize who they really are and that they are the power, they are the love. Their belief system is what's attracting things to them
Yes.
and their frequency. So if we could start getting that program out in a school system, then kids can start breaking away from this addiction.
Absolutely. That's 100% right. So if any of our viewers have any connections in the schools, definitely let us know.
Right.
Yes, it's so powerful. And I know that when my daughter was in high school, there were some teachers that were very good about it. They would have 30 cubbies and they would make every child surrender their phone when they walked into the classroom. There was other teachers that didn't care and kids were on their phone the whole time. I don't know how they didn't care. So, but some teachers are really good about it and they don't allow it at all. So if the school made a policy that said no phones allowed,
Right.
I think that'd be a great step in
Yes.
that direction. Because the truth is, when the child's in school, there's no reason why they need their phone.
Correct.
Right. So
Yeah, it's we have to start changing. I see us we need to go back to basics.
yes,
Just be a kid without all these other added pressures in life. When I
correct.
was a kid, and I'm sure when you were a kid, just go out and play all day.
Yes,
Come home at dinner time. My parents didn't even know where we were. I mean, we were just on our bikes and gone.
correct. So true.
Today, it's not that way for children.
Yes. And for parents, my message would be do not be afraid to say no to your child. So
Correct.
many times we're afraid because we say, well, I want to be friends with my child.
Mhm.
No, it's not about that. Be their parent. A parent's being a parent is unconditional love. Being a friend, friends come and go. But the love a parent has for their child is unending. It's unwavering.
You can
Friends
be
will,
their friend when they get older, but when you're
mhm,
raising them, that's
yes,
where you need to be the parent.
correct. It's absolutely true.
Yes. Because there's a
Nope.
certain, when they're of age, what you've already taught them and instilled in them is with them. And you're not going to be parenting them unless they come to you for advice. But, there's a certain point where they make their own life choices and the
Correct.
journey is theirs. And then you can be their friend. But
Yes.
when you're a parent raising them, you need to parent.
It's so true. Okay, so let me ask you this question. With all the negativity of social media, what do you think the driving purpose behind kids starting a chat group around self-harm or suicide or self-inflicting pain? What do you
It,
think would
I
be?
I believe they would do that because they themselves feel so bad about themselves
Mhm.
that the only way to feel to what they perceive to feel better is to self-inflict harm. I mean, that's why people, do cutting and these destructive things to their body because they feel so bad about themselves that the only way to release the pain is to actually inflict pain through
Yes,
cutting.
yes, 100% right. That's exactly right.
Yeah. Which is such a sick mentality. Like, how do
Mhm.
these kids how are they in so much pain that they feel inflicting pain is the right thing to do or to mutilate their body and cause harm? Something's amiss
Correct,
that's what they think is acceptable.
correct. Very true. And when we dive into those types of topics like we've done in the past, obviously we know it all comes back to the parent. So if I were to put myself in the parent's shoes, that would either mean that I'm not there for my child or I'm so busy working trying to take care of my family or support my family that I'm not there for my children. Other times I could put things that I think are more important at the time and then put them second or third or fourth. And a child knows that. They feel it. If we put our child second or third, they'll feel it. And then they'll do things to
Absolutely.
lash out. So it all does come back with us. It comes back with us as parents, and it comes back with the decisions that we make.
And sadly, being a parent, there is no handbook on how to be a parent.
No, no,
That that is a it's an innate learned thing, and you learn as you go. I mean,
yes,
obviously, we all make mistakes because
yes,
we're not perfect, but you do the best you can, and if you are a good parent, it is a lot of sacrificing, and it is complete service to others.
yes,
I mean, you put your needs on the back burner, and you tend to those children.
yes, absolutely. And you know what? And not just children, but other adults have gone through cyberbullying. They've gone through horrible negative outcomes from social media where they put a picture up of where they are on vacation and then their friends lash out at them, or they put something up. And at the same time, it's this society has gotten to the point where their entire life is broadcasted,
Yes,
right?
right. They
So
have it's almost like the only way they feel good about themselves is they has to broadcast, "I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm here, I'm there."
yes,
And those that aren't doing anything, and they look at that and see their friends doing, traveling here or there, everywhere, they feel left out. They feel
yes,
not included. So it it's not just from children, it carries over into adulthood.
100%. Absolutely. So for the listeners, what tips do you have moving forward?
So for children, it's up to you as the parent to say no and stop this. If it's harming your child, if everybody just stopped caving into the peer pressure and wanting to be included or in the popular group or you know it's more instilling the right values into your children and let them know who they
Mhm.
are, that they are the love. They don't need any of these other things. They don't need the approval of their peers to feel
Mhm.
okay about themselves.
Yes,
I know for me, it took me most of my adult life to get to the point where I don't care what anybody thinks about me. And if you're a child, you want people to like you. So you'll do anything for them to like you, to feel included. You'll become a doormat. You'll do
correct.
crazy things. But if
Yes,
you know who you are and you don't care what anybody thinks about you, that's a confidence that really needs to be instilled in kids, and then you'll have a whole generation of healthy adults, from kids to adults instead of dysfunctional.
correct. It's 100% true.
So what do you say for the children and adults?
Just like you said it, move into a state of unconditional love. Let go of trying to be approved by other people. Be Stop searching for the thumbs up from a quote that you say or a picture that you post. Let go of the approval from other people. Go back into the heart. Only focus on your own approval, self approval, self love, and follow your own path. Follow your joy and excitement, not anybody else's.
So how do you instill your own approval? How do you if somebody is always looking for approval outside themselves, how do you have somebody become self-approved?
So, what I'll do is I'll do a gratitude journal. I'll tell them, for the people that like in my office, they come in and they're in that place. I say to them, how old are you? And they'll say to me, let's say 48 or 52 or whatever. I said, okay, imagine we were to hit the pause button on life right now and step out of our body and see on our entire timeline. And I said, I want you to be proud of every single thing that's ever happened to you in your life. And they say, well, this happened, I wasn't proud of it. And this happened. I said, but hold on a second. There's a reason why your soul had you experience that for a lesson. Because the only way to know your perfection is to think that you're imperfect. The only way to know that you are loved is to think that you're unloved. So I'll have them go through their whole life and have them realize how amazing it really is, and how purpose driven it really is. And then I get them into a state of gratitude. And then you could watch it transform just like that.
Awesome. And living in gratitude truly is the secret of life. I mean, so many people don't live in gratitude.
Yes, it's so true. And we've spoken about that, and it's so true and it's so powerful.
Yes.
Yes. Well, this was great. I really appreciated this, and I really hope that our listeners got a lot out of it, because I know I did.
Yes. Well, for parents that are listening to this that have children, you have to step up and be the parent and say no. And sometimes saying no, you're not going to be liked. Your kids may not like your choices and decisions, but it's really for their benefit that you're doing it. It's because you
Mhm.
love them that you say no.
Yes, so true. Well,
Yes.
thank you so much, Holly. I really
Thank
appreciate
you.
this.
All right, everybody. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye bye.